Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 36th anniversary dinner of Center for Return. Each year, we work hard to bring you an amazing program, and I hope tonight it will be just as inspiring as always. But tonight, at this 36th annual dinner, not only do we have the inspiring speakers and speeches, we have a very big, a very important, even historic project Center for Return has undertaken, and I and Mr. Ron Schlanger are going to share more about it with you. I am Michael Remenek, and many of you recognize me. It's amazing what $20 will do. As the Center for Return Master of Ceremonies. Others know me because I have been davening mincha at the Millinery Center Synagogue for the past 14 years.
I'm Ronnie Schlanger, and I've been involved with the Center for Return for over a decade. I'm a great fan of the Center for Return because they exude warmth, caring, and love for every Jew. The atmosphere at CFR is welcoming and non-judgmental, and this allows me to involve my non-religious, non-observant colleagues. I became involved in the weekly CFR Lunch and Learn program at my place of work, and over the years I've attended and encouraged my colleagues to join me at the CFR Yeshiva Light program, which is an evening of serious Jewish Torah study for people who have never had exposure to yeshiva learning. I've also davened at the Millinery Center Synagogue for the past 2 years.
Even though there are many mincha minions located throughout Manhattan, I always prefer to daven in a shul. Millinery Center Synagogue is one of just 2 synagogues left in Midtown West. Conditions at the MCS have become so seriously neglected that several years ago there was a real fear that the building would be condemned. What a great tragedy it would be if the shul was sold and became another steel and glass structure in Manhattan. The island of Manhattan has hundreds of thousands of Jews who live and work there every day. The community of Israel cannot afford to lose a resource such as the Millinery Center Synagogue.
Center for Return has more than 36 years of outreach experience, engaging Jews one at a time and helping them find meaning in their lives by bringing them back to their roots. Center for Return has organized lunch and learn programs at Google, American Express, Citigroup, Weil Gotshal, Credit Suisse, Bank of America, Sanford Bernstein, Goldman Sachs, and many other locations. The CFR Yeshiva Lights were also hosted in various locations throughout Manhattan. Wouldn't it be incredible, I thought to myself, if the center could have its own location in Manhattan instead of always being dependent on the availability of conference rooms or private offices or even corporate lunchrooms for their programs.
I approached a core group of CFR members who daven regularly at the Millinery, and they in turn approached some of their friends who began praying there regularly as well. In December, a year ago, we officially reconstituted the membership and elected a new board of trustees and officers. Our first and foremost goal was to have a rabbi who could lead and guide a revitalization. One day, it hit me. Maybe Rabbi Avraham Kahn, a well-known Kiruv professional, would recognize the potential this location offers for Jewish outreach and consider taking on a project of saving the synagogue. Someone like Rabbi Kahn has the creativity, enthusiasm, and idealism to revitalize the millenary and bring in programming and events that would benefit the Jewish people. It was worth approaching Rabbi Kahn with the idea. Perhaps he would consider the renovation project with the goal of making the new revitalized Millenary Center Synagogue the headquarters for Center for Return in Manhattan. It took some convincing for many obvious reasons, but Rabbi Kahn recognized the potential. The board voted to ask Rabbi Kahn to become rabbi of the Millenary Center Synagogue, and together with Center for Return, to lead the revitalization campaign. On May 17th of this year, Rabbi Kahn was installed as the rabbi of the Millenary Center Synagogue with the understanding that Center for Return would be bringing programming and vital Jewish life into the synagogue.
The Millenary Center Synagogue was formally dedicated in 1948 and was originally founded to serve the thousands of Jews who worked in the ladies' hat making trade and needed a place to pray and recite Kaddish. Since its inception, the shul has gone through different phases. But through each of these phases, many hundreds of Jews used the shul as a convenient place to daven mincha and mariv during the week. Unfortunately, over the past decade, as a result of major floods, a lack of leadership, and noticeable neglect, the synagogue was reduced to a shul in name only. It became an uncomfortable, undesirable place to daven with no amenities, no heat, plumbing, or maintenance. The Center for Return staff began to rejuvenate the synagogue with its trademark passion and enthusiasm. Rabbi Yitzhak Friedman was hired as assistant rabbi, and on Sundays, Rabbi and Mrs. Kahn and Rabbi and Mrs. Schutz and Rabbi Friedman could be found packing mildewed sidurim into boxes, sorting through moldy talesim, and throwing out junk that cluttered the bookshelves meant to hold Sfarim. So during the week, Rabbi Friedman supervised workers to carry out rubbish that littered the synagogue. Eventually, over 700 contractor bags were thrown out, and 56 boxes of shemus were boxed to be buried. Rabbi Kahn brought in professionals to make capital improvements, and new lighting, heating, and cooling systems were installed. After so many years of decline, the shul is regularly cleaned and maintained. Many of the people who had stopped using the shul are returning. After years of decline and neglect, there's something going on, something good, something positive.
Never before has an undertaking and an opportunity like this existed for Center for Return. This is the center's future. This is Klal Yisrael's future. What is happening at the new Millenary Center Synagogue is historic. We are so proud to share this exciting news with you tonight. The location is strategically unparalleled for reaching out to unaffiliated Jews. Hundreds and perhaps thousands pass by the shul every day, and new people are coming in. Some of them actually signing up and becoming members. Our membership currently is at 300 strong and literally growing day by day. We now look forward to a virtually unlimited source of Jews, young and old, who have yet to taste the sweetness of our rich Torah heritage. We have real plans for a full-time study hall featuring talented, caring tutors and some of the most dynamic speakers New York has to offer. A revitalized synagogue in the center of Manhattan with a vibrant membership, offers community, and a very powerful draw to all of the Jews working there.
Center for Return has gone to great expense to get this project off the ground. Close to $200,000 was borrowed to make the necessary repairs and improvements. I'm so impressed that in addition to the daily minyanim, there are multiple daily minyanim. There's 2 minchas and 1 ma'ariv at least. There are now scheduled shiurim, lectures, and events. This is in addition to the well-attended lunch and learn classes, which I make a point of attending. For me, it's vital to take a break from the workday routine and spend time learning. I always come away from the class uplifted and inspired. Most importantly, there's a buzz in the air and new energy in the shul. Affiliated and unaffiliated Jews are participating in our new programming.
We ask you to spread the word to everyone that you know, in particular, people who work in Manhattan. We also ask for your financial support. The task is overwhelming, but well worth the investment for each of us. For those of you who are familiar with the dedication of Center for Return and the great work they have done for our fellow Jews, we thank you in advance for what we know will be your tremendous impact on our Jewish brethren living and working in Midtown Manhattan. For those of you who are new and may not be as familiar with the center and its great work, I ask you to please give generously. And I guarantee that the commitment you make will enhance your lives and offer new life to those who need it most, our brethren who are yearning for an opportunity to find their Judaism. Thank you. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Tuvia Yamnik.
Good evening. My name is Tuvia Yamnik. My wife and I are honored to receive the Outstanding Service Award. Millennium Center Synagogue has been my second home. It is not only where I serve as a cantor, but it is where I work as well for decades. I have sold linen in front of the synagogue. Over 23 years, I have witnessed the decline of Millennium Center Synagogue on daily basis, and it caused me and my wife great anguish. Since the new board under Michael Remnick took over, and the installation of Rabbi Avrom Kahn as the senior rabbi, the Almighty has answered my most heartfelt prayers. Here were Jews who allowed the shul to reclaim its former glory and be a true Makom Torah that will bring joy and nachat to the Almighty. Every day, as I watch the congregant return to the shul for services, I'm so moved. This is what I wish for, hope for. a rabbi and a board who will restore the shul to its former glory. Today, the shul is alive. We have Torah learning classes, events, and a commitment to reach out to our fellow Jews and bring them closer to our wonderful heritage. In truth, the future is much brighter than the past. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to witness my dream come true. Thank you. I would like now to introduce a beautiful boy, Tzaddik, that's on the right side. The next speaker, named David Otzlevi, should come up to the bima and give us a chizuk when we can sit down.
Hi, my name is David Ochildiev. I like being a Jew. I really like the different holidays, Hanukkah, Rosh Hashanah, and Purim. The holidays have such interesting stories to them, and from those stories I've learned that everything happens for a reason. I like being a Jew because I know that Hashem is always with me and everything He does for me is only for my benefit. I really look forward to Shabbat because it is the one day I spend with my family and especially my dad because he works very hard and isn't home much. Since the seventh day is Hashem's resting day, we all rest. For the past 3.5 years, Center for Return, and particularly Rabbi Kahn, have made it their life's mission to get me to yeshiva. There were many calls, and Rabbi Kahn even made many visits to my house. I especially remember one summer afternoon when we had a barbecue at the rabbi's house, the Bayit. My father wanted to show the Kahns how to make an authentic Baharian shish kebab barbecue. My father and Rabbi Kahn went to the Glad Kosher store and bought meats and vegetables. My father also bought a new shish kebab grill and charcoals. My dad worked the grill and it was great. Everyone had such a good time. But there is a much longer history which I'd like to share with you. My father arrived in this country in 1991 from Uzbekistan, and he was part of a group of young Baharian men who were students at Queen's College. Center for Return extended their hand in friendship to these young Baharians, and the rabbis went out of their way to be supportive and help them adjust. Center for Return created special programs and activities for these young men, helping them adapt to their new life in America and connect them with the Jewish community in New York. When I asked my father, "Why did they do this for you?" my father laughs when he answers, "It is because Rabbi Kahn always says, 'I love every Jew.'" The Center for Return rabbis understood their struggle to make it in a new country, but even more important, they never gave up hope these young Baharian men would embrace Torah observance. Today, most of my father's friends from his Queen's College days are Shomer Shabbat, and my family is moving strongly in that direction. Because of Center for Return's constant encouragement and involvement, my sister transferred from public school to Yeshiva High School. I too plan to go from public school to yeshiva and am now attending a religious Hebrew school where I learn about Shabbat, the holidays, and halacha. I could not be happier. My parents are so proud that they have a daughter in yeshiva and a son on his way to yeshiva. Thank you all for helping us along the Torah path for so many years. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Michael Sufian.
I'd like to thank Rabbi Kahn and the Board of Trustees for honoring me with the Member of the Year Award and the privilege to speak before you all tonight. Thank you. My name is Michael Sufian, and I've been praying at the Millenary Center Synagogue for over 3 years. I'd like to share how the synagogue has come to play such an important role in my life, and just how much more it could potentially do for myself and for the hundreds of thousands of other Jews who come to work and live in Midtown Manhattan. For the first 2 years that I prayed at the Millenary Center Synagogue, I found the physical condition of the synagogue so disgraceful that even during the Mincha prayer service, it was stressful to just focus on the service itself. There was no one who cared and attended to the synagogue. There was no strong leadership, which ultimately made the feeling and the atmosphere demoralizing. Almost a year ago to the day, a rebirth of the Millenary Center Synagogue had begun. Mr. Michael Remnick, our Master of Ceremonies tonight, he was the driving force behind this rebirth. He spearheaded a reconstitution of a real membership, a real election for a board of trustees, and even more, he paved the way for a new and vibrant leadership under Rabbi Avraham Kahn. Upon the arrival of Rabbi Avraham Kahn and his staff, including Rabbi Yitzchak Friedman, Rabbi Alex Hecht, Rabbi Akiva Schutz, and Rebbetzin Kahn, hundreds of man-hours went into revitalizing the synagogue, both physically and spiritually. Hundreds of bags of garbage were taken out to the curb. The walls, the ceilings, the doors were all scraped clean and painted. Heating and air conditioning, which the synagogue had not known for years. I can tell you because we wore our coats and it was warmer outside than inside. But it was finally installed and we made it. The bathroom facilities were made operational and new and improved lighting was added, which gave a breath of fresh new life to our sanctuary. Suddenly, everyone was being greeted with a warm smile by our Rebbe and with a nice Shalom Aleichem. The minyanim began on time precisely, and the rabbi was present to answer any and all questions as needed and offer guidance. The combination of cleanliness, soulfulness, and dynamism has absolutely reinvigorated our synagogue. Today, 1025 6th Avenue, between 38th and 39th Street, is not just a synagogue address, but it is a place where Jews can come to access Hashem and His Torah. So what does this mean for me personally? Over the past few years, as a Jewish young professional working in the fashion industry, I faced many challenges on the daily. During the prime hours of the day, when I break for lunch, in order to recharge my body, I'm also offered the opportunity to recharge my heart and my soul and be reminded of who really sustains us. The afternoon mincha service at the Millinery Center Synagogue is my spiritual oasis in the secular desert of Midtown Manhattan. Soon, after the renovations began and were underway, programming had begun. In my own way and on my own journey, I was now comfortable with taking advantage of what the synagogue was offering. It was very soon after that the rabbi and his wife graciously offered to have a Shabbaton at their home in Queens. A core group of young people who are dedicated to the revitalization of our synagogue were invited to the Shabbaton. And it was only after that Shabbaton did I realize exactly how important it was to have a connection with a rabbi and how important he is to my personal growth. It was after that Shabbaton that I had taken upon myself to read the weekly Torah portion 3 times a week. And I am pleased and proud to say that in a few short weeks I will be completing and celebrating my completion of the Torah. Here's a rabbi who is warm, enthusiastic, and most importantly, he's only a few strides away in Midtown Manhattan. It wasn't long before the Lunch and Learn program had begun. I no longer, on Wednesdays, had to rush to get pizza, wait online, wait another 5 minutes for it to get to me, gobble it down, and add another 5 minutes to walk and to catch a prayer service. The Millinery Lunch and Learn program offers me a community of individuals who want to learn, an engaging host of speakers, lunch, a zimun, and a prayer service that begins as soon as the class ends. The learning experience has been immensely gratifying. The learning is meaningful, and even just sharing our passion for Torah topics can be exhilarating. Having a chance near work where I can access Hashem during the workday is just amazing. At the Millinery Center Synagogue, I'm a member of a vital community, one that offers friendship, a rabbi who knows and cares about me, programs and events, and most of all, it's easily accessible right in Midtown Manhattan. Rabbi Alex Hecht, the Millinery Center Synagogue and Center for Return, Rabbinic Intern, has been an integral part in keeping me on track, and he deserves a special mention. It was when Rabbi Hecht heard that I was looking for more than just a weekly shiur that he offered me to study Talmud during the other days on my lunch break. He follows up when I'm late because of work-related deadlines, and he has kept an open door for me to access Judaism. I was astonished one day while I was on vacation a few weeks ago that Rabbi Hecht had called me. He had called me to offer to learn Torah. And I was astonished, not because that he merely called. I was astonished because he took out of his own personal time, on his day off as well, in order to study Talmud with me. Rabbi Hecht, on that day, and on many more days, has held the door open for me to access Judaism. I am proud to say that because of such inspirational leadership by the Millinery Center Synagogue, that I too have learned how to hold open the door for others. A coworker of mine for many years had deviated from Torah observance. After going out to lunch with him, on our second lunch, I told him I had to cut it short because I had to attend the prayer service. But I kindly offered him to join me. He responded, "Sure, why not?" It was only after that I realized this was the first time that he had prayed in a synagogue in many years. Since that first prayer service at Millenary Center Synagogue, he attends regularly the Mincha prayer service with me. Even more so, he now attends prayer service in the mornings as well, on his own accord. On his own accord, he has also set up his own weekly chavrusa. And all of this was simply done from seeing what the inspirational leadership at Millenary Center Synagogue has done for me and emulating their ways. It is easy to offer colleagues the opportunity to access Judaism. The new board and rabbi have dug the first clod, but it needs our help to allow this wellspring of Torah and Jewish life to really burst forth. It has the potential to provide access to hundreds of thousands of unaffiliated Jews. I am confident that under the leadership of Rabbi Avraham Kahn and the Center for Return, it will provide the access to Judaism for which the Center for Return is clearly so famous for. Millenary Center Synagogue, located in the midst of one of the greatest cities in the world, is a beacon of Jewish life. With time, it will shine much and much brighter, and I am very much looking forward to taking a part in it and to seeing it. And I thank you all for making this possible. I'd like now to introduce our next speaker, Alex Lichtenstein.
A lawyer, a rabbi, and a nightclub owner walk into a bar. Actually, hold that thought. When you ask most little kids what they want to be when they grow up, they'll tend to say aspirational things like, I want to be a fireman. But apparently, I was a pretty weird little kid because for some reason, I had always wanted to be a lawyer. Good evening. My name is Alex Lichtenstein, and I apologize in advance for my sore throat. I was born in Vienna, Austria, on my parents' way to the US from the Ukraine, and I grew up in Brooklyn. Coming from the Soviet Union, my parents didn't really know anything about Judaism. But luckily, my mother became involved with the Center for Return, and so my parents sent me to Jewish day schools so I could learn about my Jewish heritage. I became observant in 8th grade, completely Shomer Shabbos. My parents eventually followed suit, and after graduating MTA high school, I went to Israel for a year to learn. I loved it so much that I really wanted to stay for Shana Bet, and at the time, I was serious about potentially pursuing smicha. But for various reasons, it didn't work out. So I came back and I started college. And I ended up getting really into nightlife. Initially, mostly for fun, but then very much so professionally. Monetarily, thank God I was successful. Business was great during college. So much so that when I was finishing undergrad, instead of going to law school, let alone getting smicha, I decided to open up my own nightclub. And although I certainly didn't know it at the time, the nightclub was down the street from the Millenary Center Synagogue. Suffice it to say, by that point, I was far from observant. And it wasn't because of any sort of philosophical or intellectual change. It just kind of happened. First, I started keeping my phone on Shabbos to talk to my non-Jewish girlfriend at the time. Then I kept on for work. Then I'd start going out for dinners, etc. And before I knew it, Yom Kippur was the extent of my Jewish observance. Fast forward to about 2 years ago, and I get a call from Rav Kahn about a shul in my old neighborhood that I never knew existed. And I don't know how many of you knew about the shul before they started doing renovations, but it never really existed from my perspective. I must have passed by the building literally thousands of times, and never once did I think there was a shul there. Great job, by the way, on the renovation so far. So anyway, Rav Kahn calls me and he asks me if I can help with a minyan. And even though at that time in my life I wouldn't normally attend minyanim, I thought, hey, the rabbi called me personally. I feel weird saying no. It's 10 minutes, right? What's the big deal? Little did I know, it was the first step in my coming back to Yiddishkeit. Next thing I knew, I was being set up in a chavrusa with Rav Yitzchak Friedman. And this was really my first plunge back into learning, which I had loved so much when I was younger. Before I knew it, I was putting on tefillin every day again. And the little things just started adding up into big things. Ben Zoma in the 4th parak of Pirkei Avos says, Schar mitzvah mitzvah, uschar avera avera. The reward for a mitzvah is another mitzvah, and the reward for a sin is another sin. And I can attest to that on both counts. Things really do become habitual. When I first started keeping Shabbos in 8th grade, not turning on the TV was so hard. In college, when I stopped keeping things, it was the same, but the opposite. It was really hard for me to turn on my phone the first time because I felt terrible after I did it. But soon enough, it seemed impossible not to keep my cell on during Shabbos. So I really want to give my sincerest thanks and gratitude to Rav Kahn and Rav Friedman for what they have done for me through this shul. Thanks to you, I've had the opportunity to start on my way back. By just going to Minyan that first time, the reward was the chavrusa, and so on. I truly look forward to seeing the Millenary Center Synagogue become the center for prayer, for learning, and for outreach that you envision. A place where countless other Jews will connect, or reconnect as I did, with their Judaism in the years to come. Thank you. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Merrill Winter.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Merrill Winter, and let me say how honored I am to be named Talmud of the Year. When Rabbi Kahn asked me to be honored as Talmud of the Year, I was taken aback. Why me? Rabbi Kahn's response was that I was a fine Jewish man with a beautiful story that needed to be shared. Though I'm Jewish, I didn't feel that I was Jewish enough to be worthy of this honor. I was raised in Flushing, Queens, and my Jewish upbringing was typical. We had a mezuzah on our front door. I loved Fiddler on the Roof, and I went to see the show with my mom. In fact, the soundtrack often played in my family's home, and my Jewish education ended after I was bar mitzvahed. We celebrated the major Jewish holidays. Our extended family would get together for Rosh Hashanah and the Passover Seders, and everyone enjoyed my mom's wonderful cooking. And I remember breaking my Yom Kippur fast with special foods prepared by my mother. While I have wonderful memories of these family get-togethers, I did not know the significance of the holidays, nor did we ever attend temple or synagogue. I once went to an Orthodox synagogue with a friend on Simchat Torah, and I remember getting a flag with an apple, but I didn't know what was going on and felt uncomfortable and out of place. Recently, I retired from JP Morgan Chase, where I was a human resources manager. In my case, now at the age of 62, I am beginning to learn about my heritage, which is to say, I am starting at the beginning of my Jewish education. Better late than never. In December 2015, my mother, Molly Winter, may she rest in peace, began to experience a decline in her health. Her doctor recommended hospice care at home. The hospice coordinator asked if I would like to have a rabbi visit my mother, and I said yes, I would. Every Friday, Rabbi Joseph Stern would visit my mom. We both looked forward to his visits, and it was Rabbi Stern who officiated at her funeral. There wasn't a minyan at my mother's funeral, so it was extremely important to me that there should be a minyan at her unveiling. Rabbi Stern arranged for a minyan. One of the men who came to make a minyan at the cemetery was Michael Remenick, our master of ceremonies here tonight. A short while later, I received 3 heartwarming phone calls, one from Rabbi Kahn, a second from Rabbi Akiva Schutz, and then from Rebbetzin Kahn. Michael Remenick had told the rabbis how he had met me and that I was perfect candidate to benefit from Center for Return programming. Soon afterwards, I was invited to have dinner with the Kahns at the Bayit. After an evening of feeling welcomed, respected, and valued, I was open to learning more about what Center for Return could offer me. The timing was impeccable. I felt a strong need to do something to honor my mother's memory. I wanted to elevate her soul. I was told there could be no better way to honor my mother's memory than to learn about my Jewish roots and heritage. I began learning on a regular basis with Rabbi Alec Hecht, the Center for Return rabbinic intern. Together with Rabbi Hecht, I learned Jewish ethics, halacha, and chumash. Today, I'm part of the Center for Return community, which embraces me regardless of my current level of knowledge and observance. This past year, there have been many firsts in my life. I started learning Torah and Jewish law. I started wearing tefillin. This past Sukkot was the first time I ever ate in a sukkah and made the blessing over a lulag and etrog. For the first time in my life, I prayed in an Orthodox synagogue and went to a Selachat service. For the first time in my life, I have interacted with Torah-observant Jews and discovered how comfortable they have made me feel. It's true, I still feel intimidated when I'm in shul and everyone is davening in Hebrew and I don't understand what's happening. But the intimidation subsides when I remember that I'm amongst my Jewish family. I know I am surrounded by a community of Jews caring about other Jews. July 12th, 2017 was the last day I said Kaddish for my mother, and it was also the day I got my pair of tefillin, which I don every day. I am very aware of my connection to Hashem, and now have a spiritual strength I've never felt before. This week is Hanukkah, which we mark by kindling lights on the menorah. I associate the kindling of these lights with my newfound connection to Judaism. And just as we light an additional candle every evening of Hanukkah, so too I hope and pray that I can constantly be adding to my understanding of Torah and my performance of mitzvahs. Center for Return has been guiding me on a magnificent journey back to my heritage and continues to guide me, and for this I am eternally grateful. Thank you all very much. Happy Hanukkah.
I know we've been giving rounds of applause all night long, but I think all of these special people deserve one more. The Center for Return's accomplishments are due to the tremendous Mesiras Nefesh of one outstanding couple, Rabbi Avraham Kahn and his wonderful wife, Miriam. These are the people who, together, with their outstandingly dedicated staff, are reaching out to our fellow Jews day after day, year in and year out. These are the people who take young Jewish students and professionals and lead them by the hand, spending hundreds of hours with each one of them until they can stand on their own and take their rightful place in the Jewish community. We owe Rabbi and Rebbetzin Kahn and the entire staff at the Center for Return an enormous debt of gratitude. At this time, it is a great honor for me to introduce to you an incredibly talented Talmid Chacham of the highest order who has dedicated his entire life to saving our fellow Jews, Rabbi Avraham Kahn.
First of all, I want you to all relax. I'm the shortest speaker. And I must say that all the speakers before me, I am completely in awe. You spoke from the heart, you spoke beautifully, and you should all be blessed. This year's honorees are very special. They are all capable, warm, giving, with hearts of gold. We owe them our sincere thanks. Tovia and Frida Yamnik. Outstanding Service awardees. Sincerely interested in helping every Jew draw closer to Torah and mitzvot. Tovia has devoted decades of his time and resources caring for the Millinery Center Synagogue. He inspires others to follow his lead and do the same. Everything Tovia does, he does with a full heart, 100%. Center for Return is indeed fortunate to have the Yamniks as partners in the synagogue revitalization and renewal. Tovia and Frida are especially deserving of the Outstanding Service Award. Michael Sufian. Member of the Year awardee. I had the good fortune of meeting Michael as soon as I came to the Millinery Center Synagogue. Michael was the first to volunteer to help clean and restore the synagogue. Since that time, he has not stopped helping. Michael brings an enthusiasm to every program in which he participates. Michael is uniquely deserving of the Member of the Year award. Merrill Winter. Talmud of the Year awardee. I had the good fortune of meeting Merrill through Michael Remenick. I have witnessed his growth in Torah study and mitzvah observance. I am in awe of his warmth and enthusiasm, which are ever present. Merrill is most deserving of the Talmud of the Year award. I'll tell you the truth. I want to clap for you. You're the best. You're the nicest audience. You're sweet people. You're good people. Now I'm going to ask that no clapping until all the awards are presented, etc., etc., because it's going to, otherwise I won't be the shortest speaker. I would ask the honorees to please come up to the podium and accept their awards. Let me just read the inscription and then we'll all clap together. Tuvia and Frida Yamnik, Outstanding Service Award, Center for Return Annual Dinner, December 10th, 2017. Michael Sufian, Member of the Year Award, Center for Return Annual Dinner, December 10th, 2017. Merrill Winter, Talmud of the Year Award, Center for Return Annual Dinner, December 10th, 2017. Let's please give them all a big round of applause. It was unbelievable. You were unbelievable. The honorees all mentioned to me, Rabbi, yours is going to be the main speech. I answered them saying that theirs and all the other speeches are the main speeches. After they have spoken and explained what it is that Center for Return is doing, there is very little I have to add. From all the speeches you have heard tonight, you should have a very clear idea of the magnificent work Center for Return does. When we light the menorah on Hanukkah, we are really obligated in the first instance, l'chatchila, to place the menorah outside our front door so that everyone can see it when passing by. This is called Pesumei Nisa, to publicize the miracle. Center for Return's work at Millinery Center Synagogue is our opportunity to illuminate brightly Torah Judaism to hundreds of thousands of Jews in Midtown Manhattan and cause many miracles. We would like to partner with all of you here tonight and all Torah-affiliated Jews to get the word out about our outreach work in Manhattan. Almost everyone sitting here tonight has friends, family members, business associates who are not yet Torah observant and who are located in Manhattan. Please tell them there is a bright flame burning in Midtown through which they can connect with their 3,800-year Jewish heritage. Thank you all for coming and enjoy your dinner.